welcome to another episode of the Marc Medley Show. Thank you so much for that applause. As always, it is wonderful to be together with you again on this platform as I have the opportunity to share my thoughts with you. And again, you always have the opportunity to agree or disagree. If by chance you don't know who you are listening to, this is your host of the Marc Medley Show, Marc Medley. Today's episode is titled, Are We Really That Gullible? And the "we" will be in brackets in the title in terms of the "we" meaning Americans. Are we really that gullible? Now, I could talk to other parts of the world also, but since I live here in America and I'm a proud American, I'm going to talk to what I know, which is us here in the United States of America. So my question is, have we always been this gullible? Do we not see how gullible we are here in 2023? Does it not seem gullible to anyone else but me? One of the things that, even with my blog, I have the Critical Thinker, I have the Marc Medley Show, which is the podcast, and then I have the radio broadcast, which is the Reading Circle with Marc Medley. And in many times when I get into discussion, whether I'm writing or whether I'm talking, I'm usually talking about something that I've observed or noticed that I think many people take for granted, or either they're in survival mode, or they don't see it, or don't have the time to see it, or just don't notice it or observe it, or what have you. I don't know. I just know that as I observe the way things are and the way things are going, I know I can't be the only one who are seeing the things that I'm seeing. My concern is that there are other folks who are seeing it and no one is speaking out. We ought to be speaking out about things in mass, in the masses. The masses ought to be speaking truth to power. As things are going on right in front of our faces, right in front of our noses, and it causes me to question, are we really that gullible, or do we just not care? Now, the source that we all go to for definitions is always the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So certainly I went to where we all go. I went to Merriam-Webster and I looked up the word gullible, and it said easily duped or cheated. Matter of fact, the sentence that they use in the dictionary is selling overpriced souvenirs to gullible tourists. Now, I couldn't think of too much of a better example than that, because where I'm going to go throughout this episode is some things that I see that we're being cheated. We're being duped. And my question is, why aren't more folks crying out, making noise about our being duped? The first one, I don't know if anyone else has noticed besides me, but have you noticed that the packaging and product sizes for what we're buying now keeps getting smaller and smaller? And yet the prices keep going higher and higher. Each time I go to the grocery store, because I don't have to go now since it's just me as often as I did when it was a family of 4. But since I'm single and I'm on my own, I don't have to go to the grocery store as much. So for the few times that I do go, there's a stark difference in price from the time I went the last time to the current time that I go. And not only that, the package sizing has shrunk. Now, when I do share this with my partner, she laughs. She laughs and thinks I'm just being funny or being silly, when in all honesty, I'm not. The package sizing has decreased. If you buy a coffee container, the coffee container has decreased in size. Ice cream cartons have decreased in size. So I know what I'm seeing, and I'm just wondering, why is it that no one else is observing that or knows that, or if we are seeing it in mass, that we're not saying anything about it? Because again, the size is getting smaller. And I honestly think these corporations, and I used to work in corporate America, so I know how we play the marketing, advertising, and public relation games. But I honestly believe, and I've said this on prior episodes, that the corporate execs really do think the average consumer is stupid. Do they honestly think that we're not going to see, and maybe they do, that we're not going to see that package size is not the same size that it was the last time we purchased it, and the price did not go down because the size went down. The price actually went up. The price actually rose. In other words, you're paying more and getting less. The same thing, and I know I've talked about this on prior episodes in terms of customer service. I think we probably get the least amount of customer service across the board than we've ever gotten, ever. And I remember kind of when the slide started, because at the gasoline stations, they used to be called service stations, and they were called that for a reason, because when you pulled in to fill up or get gas, you actually were given some services. They would come to your windshield and they would wash your windshield with the squeegee. If you needed air in your tires, you could get that without having to pay the machine. Put in a quarter, and now it's $1.25. Now it's $1.50. Now it's almost $3 just to get some air to put in your tire. But at one point in time, to be able to get air in your tires, that was free. As a matter of fact, I can remember, and I'm dating myself, I can remember when you could actually get a free map from a gasoline station. So you could pull in and you can fill up your tank. You could walk away with a map. You could have your windshields washed and air in your tires. As a matter of fact, I remember when they would even check oil. See, that's how far back I'm going, where you can get your oil checked from the serviceman at the gas station. Not that you would have to get out your car yourself and check it yourself, or that you would have to get out your car and wipe your windshield yourself. The serviceman would do that for you. And that's why it was called a service station. When you pull into the quote unquote service station now, which I don't even think you can call it that anymore, it's just a plain old gas station, you barely, and I know, see, this is in New Jersey. We're one of the one or two states who still have the attendant pump the gas for you. And all the rest of the country, you have the opportunity to pump the gas for yourself. You get out the car, so you really get no service. But in the state of New Jersey, where this podcast is being broadcast out of, we still, by law, have to have attendants. And so we barely get the attendant to come out of the booth to put the gas in your car. So no longer can we call those service stations. So when I tell you that customer service across the board, because now when you go to the various stores, and I did a podcast on this extensively a couple of podcast episodes ago, the expectation is you're going to check yourself out, that you will no longer be able to go to a cashier and have the cashier ring you up and check you out. I've said before, you would think, and this is where I think the executives once again think we are stupid, or either we're being duped. You would think that the checkout experience would be the best experience of your time in the store. And yet it is now the worst. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have one or two items to go to self-checkout, by all means. But the expectation that you're going to check out an entire basket full of items. I was in the store the other day and I watched an elderly lady and her daughter, and she was trying to figure out how to scan those items, and the daughter tried to figure it out, and she looked at one, and I saw them when they gave up and the attendant had to come do it for them. Now, if the attendant could come over and do that for them in the self-serve, the same attendant could have been the cashier that rang them up at the cash register. See, some of this stuff just does not make sense to me. This is why I'm saying, are we this gullible that we just go along with everything? Do we just go along to get along? That no matter what is shoved down our throats, we go along with it. Nothing said, no complaints. We just go along. I sit there in amazement as I go to these stores and I watch people line up around the store. And you'll have 2 or 3 or 4 different employees. 2 or 3 of them will be somewhere trying to look busy while there is one on the cash register. So the other day, see, I get a kick out of irony. The other day, one of the employees had finished her shift and now she was able to shop like anyone else. She became Joe and Jane customer. She was behind me. The line was behind the store and the young lady who was at the cashier had a basket full of items. I had 2 items. I think the lady that worked there, she had like maybe 1 or 2 items in her hand, everybody behind her. So she immediately tells the cashier, call for backup. And I just got giddy because I turned around and I said, oh, you had an opportunity to be one of us, to see what it feels like on our side of the cashier line. She says, well, no, in all honesty, once it gets to a certain number on the line, we're supposed to call for backup. And see, and at that point, the backup came and she said, go, because she's the next online. And so the young lady behind me who worked in the store, she says, yeah, you go. So I went on over and she followed me. And so the person that was in front of me that had that basket full of items, the cashier was still fooling with her while I had gone on, checked my stuff out and walked on out the store. But my point with sharing that is, this is somebody who worked in the store that had the opportunity to see what we as customers go through. And as I keep saying, that should be the best experience. After you've walked around the store, after you've walked around and picked up your items and now you're about to spend your hard-earned money, that should be the most satisfying point. You should not be made to wait, to get frustrated and to be sitting there like, oh my God, how long is this going to take? Or be forced to go and check it out yourself. Because again, just like with the package shrinkage, where the prices are not shrinking with it, the same thing is going on here with no customer service. You're going to do it yourself and still pay more. That does not make sense to me, and I do not understand why the masses are not pushing back on corporate America, on these stores, on these folks who make these products, but yet we go right along. We just buy, we just give them our money, just like, okay, you know what? Abuse us, please. Can you abuse us some more, please? Here's my money. I worked all week for this or all month for this or whatever it is. And now I'm going to stand here and be frustrated as I buy a product in your store. And my purchasing of these products are making you money or giving you profit or making you rich. And yet I'm being abused. And we just go right along. So that's in that area in terms of, are we really that gullible? Are we really that easily duped? Are we really that willing to be constantly cheated? Now, speaking of cheating, all politics aside, this is what I'm about to say. This part of the rant is really not about politics, even though it is political figures. It's not about politics per se. It really is about right or wrong. Where have we gotten to where we have absolutely no problem with nominating and electing and supporting a criminal? Bottom line, criminal. This we know, 90 plus charges. Now I get it. Innocent until proven guilty. But at the end of the day, the man is a crook. The man has always been a crook. The man had no business leading the country. The man was a crook then. The man got into the White House most likely by being a crook. And yet we still have folks out there who will, even if he's behind bars, are willing to say that's who we want as our leader. Really, where have we fallen to that we will take someone behind bars as our leader? Yes. Has there always been corruption in politics? Yes. Will there always be corruption in politics? Yes. But you go in there with your eyes wide open, knowing the man or the woman is a crook, and yet you're still saying, I'm going to support that and vote for that regardless. We are talking charges on various state levels. We're talking charges on federal level. We're talking about the leading and the heading up of an insurrection. We're talking about all kinds of crazy stuff. And yet we are willing, I can't even include myself in the we. Many, too many are willing to support that nonsense. What does that say about us? What does that say about the country that the masses are willing to support someone who most likely is going to have to do some type of jail time? I don't care if it's a day. The person is still going to have to do some jail time, because somewhere amongst that 90, something is going to be found to be guilty. Now, I do not blame him for pleading not guilty, because he has absolutely nothing to lose. He has everything to gain by pleading not guilty to everything. Prove it. I get it. Hey, but out of that 90, I just have a feeling that one of the 90 is going to pop and be guilty. It's a real long shot that you're going to beat 90 charges across federal and various states, that one of them, because all it takes is one, that one of them is not going to come up guilty. And at that point, you're a convicted felon. And you have folks that are saying, we don't care if he's a convicted felon or not. We're still going to vote for him. He's still our guy. What kind of hatred is that? Where are we? Are we really that gullible? That's the question I keep asking throughout this particular episode is, are we really that gullible? Why aren't we speaking out? Why aren't those of us who are not gullible? Why are we not making more noise? Now, I have this one little platform, but I'm making a little bit of noise on it. And hopefully somebody will hear it and say, you know what? He's got a point there. You know what? I never looked at it that way. I never thought about it that way. The next time I go to the supermarket, I'm going to take a look at the packages and see if it was smaller than the last time I was here. I'm going to see how many people are willing to support someone who most likely is going to be a convict. Are we that easily duped? Are we that willing to be cheated? Are we so out there that it just doesn't matter to us? And yet we keep sinking lower and lower and lower. The country continues to sink lower and lower and lower. I can't imagine what the leaders, because I couldn't imagine what the leaders of the other countries thought when 45 was in office. I can't imagine what the leaders around the world are thinking about the people who are willing to still say, we want that back. And not only will we be getting that back, we'll be getting that back even worse, because at this point now he has charges against him. He's been impeached twice, 90 charges against him, indicted several times, and the people of the country are still saying, that's who we want to lead us. Something is wrong with that picture. I don't care what anyone says. Something is wrong with that picture. Because see, this is the thing. That's why I say this is not necessarily about politics. Democrat, Republican, independent, whatever. Right is right, wrong is wrong. You know, those of you who are listening, good and well, President Obama would not have made it past one charge, let alone 90. Matter of fact, I'm not saying Obama never did anything. I don't know what he did. You don't know what he did. But the most that anybody could hang on him was a tan suit. And Noise was made on that. Matter of fact, more noise was made on the tan suit than is being made on the 90 charges. That does not make sense to me. How gullible are we? How gullible are we willing to be? Again, going back to Merriam-Webster's definition, easily duped or cheated. Matter of fact, it didn't even say like it would be a difficult task. It said easily duped or cheated. And we go along with the duping. That's the part I don't get, that so many of us are going along with being duped. So many of us are going along with being cheated. Matter of fact, not only are we willing to go along with being cheated, we're willing to elect and have a cheater lead us. We're willing to vote and elect a known cheater. So I guess that might answer my question in terms of how gullible are we? I love the platform, the opportunity to express. Again, you have the opportunity to agree or disagree. I do ask that you share it. As you listen to this, share it. Share it amongst your friends. Let somebody know the Marc Medley Show exists. I'm looking for some exposure. Let somebody know the show exists. Not only do I have this show, I have a radio broadcast. I always have to differentiate to make the difference between the radio show and the podcast, because people now get them confused. They just call my radio show the podcast. And I always have to say, no, that's a radio broadcast. This is the podcast. The Marc Medley Show is the podcast. The Reading Circle with Marc Medley is the radio show. The Critical Thinker is the blog. Now, if you want to have access to all of that and all of my social media sites, log on to my website, marcamedley.com, marcamedley.com. That is the portal. That will give you information about the show. That'll give you information about the podcast. It'll give you information about the blog. It'll give you information about my day job. If you're an author and you want to appear on the Reading Circle, you have the submission form there that you can get in touch with me there, and I'll take a look and see if I'd like to interview you on the radio show. I mean, it's all there. So if you go to marcamedley.com, I have a YouTube channel where all of these episodes are archived. The Marc Medley Show is archived there, as well as the Reading Circle with Marc Medley. That's archived there. All that's on my YouTube channel. You can access that again by going to marcamedley.com. It's all connected. marcamedley.com. My radio show is heard live each Saturday morning from 6 o'clock a.m. to 9 o'clock a.m. on gobrave.org. It is web streamed around the world on gobrave.org. Locally in northern New Jersey, I told you earlier, this podcast is being recorded out of the state of New Jersey. In northern New Jersey and New York, I can be heard on old-fashioned radio, 88.7 FM radio. That's why it is a radio show. It's not the podcast. It is a radio broadcast because it is heard on radio, 88.7 FM. It is web streamed around the world on gobrave.org, GOBRAVE.org, from 6 o'clock a.m. to 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. If you log on to that, you can catch me there. I do a combination of gospel music and author interviews. And I provide commentary, just like I'm providing commentary now. But give that some thought. Give the question, the essential question in this title is, are we that gullible? Are we really this gullible? Really? I mean, has anyone besides me taken a look to see how gullible are we? Well, that's it for this particular episode. Like I said, please share it. Please follow me on my social media sites. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. The more, the merrier. It is Labor Day for us here in my school district. The first day for the teachers is tomorrow. First day for our students is on Thursday. So I am on anticipatory tiptoe to see everybody on tomorrow and on Thursday. I am like that kid. I've always been like, even as a kid, for first day of school. I know I'm going to be excited tonight because I feel like a child, and tomorrow's my first day of school. As the principal, I have the opportunity to meet with my staff tomorrow and Wednesday. And then on Thursday, our scholars come back. So I'm just relaxing today. Thought I'd record this episode, but it really gets to me in terms of our gullibility. I don't know if that's a word or not, but just how gullible are we that we're willing to elect a known cheater, that we can go to the store and just willy-nilly go along with serving ourselves and paying more to get less product for more pricing. How gullible are we? And the masses are not saying anything. It doesn't seem like anyone is speaking truth to power. All right, go to my website, marcamedley.com. We'll be together again in our next episode.